beginning of March, I traveled with my business partner from Dominican Republic to Haiti, crossing the border by bus. It's a small ride of 350 kilometers, which took us nearly 9 hours. Near the customs, there is one of the biggest markets I've ever seen. We were quite overwhelmed by the thousands of people making business transactions between the two different countries. But what really struck me were these people selling medical supply provided for free from different international organizations, such as first aid kits, antibiotics, inhalers. All of them brand new, packaged in Red Cross, UNICEF, Médecins Sans Frontières. And these guys were selling this equipment because they had no use of it, right? So they were just trying to make some extra cash in order to answer all their basic needs. And here the reality of international development really hits me. The world is capable of moving millions high-end equipment on the other side of the planet, yet we still fail to deliver it to the right person. In a country that suffered from floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, epidemics, how can you ensure that the 13 billions of dollars of international helps actually reach the right persons? Good morning, everyone. I'm Guillaume, and I consider that my biggest stroke of luck was meeting inspiring people. Funnily enough, two of the persons that inspired the most my professional development were both called Jason. So this is a story of how meeting these two Jasons helped me to draft a solution to international development. So the first Jason, Dominican Jason, is my current business partner with whom I traveled to Haiti. Together we co-founded a social business back in 2016. And Jason told me all about international development and social entrepreneurship. We all know that international development is here to help nations improve the health, education, and economic situation of their citizens, while building a more prosperous and secure world. But what Jason also taught me is that international development is an industry. It deals with financial and human resources, has specific goals, and is trying to improve its process constantly. From talking with different people we met on the ground working at local organizations, I get to realize that these agencies were facing similar issues. What was really funny is that these problems were totally independent from the region or the industry. One of the first issues is that it takes ages to assess and to test the efficiency of an international help program. From the original kickoff iteration to the actual deployment on the ground, it can take up to a year. Besides, the efforts usually do not rely on tracking the impact, but much more on planning and executing. Another issue is what I call the balance of power. One of the biggest challenges is complex issues between the different stakeholders. The donors want to be constantly reassure that their money is invested smartly and efficiently. And they are asking for really detailed action plans when the final issue is not even fully understood yet. Another issue is developing solutions that are not fully adapted to the reality of the country. In many cases, unfortunately, development plans are designed in fancy offices, far from the community in need, resulting to a discrepancy between the aid provided and the actual challenge. And the last issue that we know way too good in Europe is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy makes innovation fairly impossible. Once everything is planned, it's like set in stone. And to come up even with a slight change would involve endless emails, meetings, protocols, and forms to fill in. It's impossible. So the common issue here is the wrong focus. The way we traditionally work is focusing on strategic planning instead of beneficiaries' outcome. It's all about processes that takes months, if not years, to cover and are full of irrelevant details. It's a traditional top-down decision. The board of the NGOs, with or without the donors, take a decision together, and then at some point, the solution may or may even not benefit to the community. So my question is, how can we make sure that international help is focusing much more on the beneficiary? Well, here comes the second Jason, the Canadian Jason, who gave me a hint. I created my first company when I was 21. It was a game studio, and we were developing mobile apps. To be perfectly honest, I had no clue of software development. Couldn't speak anything but French at that time, so don't think I could actually understand programming languages. But what Canadian Jason taught me is that a methodology was developed in order to make software development much more efficient. It is called Agile Thinking. So the core concept behind it actually appeared in order to disrupt the traditional and conservative way of thinking project management. And yeah, it's called Agile. So I'm going to give you a few examples using culinary examples because I love food to explain you a bit what is this agile, the agility. So the first principle is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So do not invest in a fancy kitchen appliances if you don't even know how to cook a simple omelette. A good-looking knife is not going to make you a great chef. Instead, surround yourself by capable people, learn from them, and start cooking together. Second principle is final working product over comprehensive documentation. If we are having a romantic date and I spend the whole evening bragging about my cooking skills, I'm not sure I'm going to convince you. However, if I get to work, start cooking for you and delivering something, then I may have more chances. Third principle is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. If I spend, again, my time cooking something, and at the end of the day you just don't like it, we will start arguing. I will consider that, well, I did my job, and you will show you dissatisfaction by not liking it. We'll hit the wall. But if instead I involve you actively to the process, it's going to be a win-win situation. First of all, well, I will get some help. And secondly, we will both make sure that you like the outcome of the cooking session. And the last principle, which is for me the most important, is responding to change over following a plan. So again, following this example, if I had in mind to prepare my specialty, which is a chocolate hazelnut cake, and last minute you tell me you have a nut allergy, I may better come with an alternative dessert rather than seeing you lying on the floor because of an allergic reaction. It's common sense. So the startup scene actually took a great inspiration from these 4 principles, and soon a new buzzword appeared next to growth hacking, big data, or Brexit. We now speak about lean startup. So if the idea originally appeared in the middle of last century, it really flourished with the boom of the internet economy in the middle of 2000s. So for those who are not familiar with this lean term, it's a methodology, which is really customer-centric, that works with small iterations in order to develop a project. So in a nutshell, it's all about iterations and validated learning. But what I find really important is that always spot the customer or the beneficiary in general at the center of the process. It's like being a good chef. So, agile, lean, why is it so cool? Well, in many cases, the end goal of a project is not fully known yet. We have an idea that there's a problem, but the exact ways to solve it are not clear yet. It's only by starting, advancing, that the issue is becoming clearer and clearer. And the good thing is, this methodology is change-friendly. By working with little iterations, it's much easier to change the scope of the project and even the direction of the execution. Also, it allows the beneficiary to have a look at any time, test the outcome, and share its input in order to improve continuously the execution of the project. Now, if you ask non-profit organizations if they are lean, they will tell you that they don't have enough money, don't have enough resources, and they are therefore extremely lean. Running an international development organization often rhyme with charity-driven donations, low income for their workers. But there's an enormous gap between being lean and being economical. Being lean is all about optimizing resources. It's all about avoiding spending money for unadapted solutions. It's really about saving money and quickly validating concepts that show real promises. So I'm going to give you three ideas on how to implement this agile methodology to international development. On the first one, no more never-ending planning meetings and workshops. Instead of spending ages planning, the execution, defining the goal, the resources needed, the agency should start on the ground to elaborate a small proposal, test and control its outcome after a few weeks. Let's take the example of Africa's off-grid power challenge. Many communities located far from the power line are still lacking electricity. We speak of more than 100 million people actually. So the traditional way of working would be firstly to define the goal, how many homes should be provided with power and electricity, then assess the resources needed, both human and financial, and then deploy huge logistical efforts in order to intervene locally. But the linear version would be actually to start straight on the ground, try working with fuel-powered generators or renewable energy, and test with the beneficiary its maintenance, its durability, and then assess the scalability to the whole region. That way we could really polish a bulletproof version that firstly really fit the community needs, but more importantly always respect and keep an up-to-date funding need. Another example, another idea, keeping the stakeholder involved in the process at any time. So this can be done by dividing the workload into little chunks and share regular updates with the stakeholder. So let's say, guys, you identified a lack of medicinal staff in Zambia and came up with a top-notch training program for the nurses. Really good job. One of the main challenges would be to recruit the appropriate people, the staff for your program. So following this idea, we would split the workload into little to-dos doable in a week, such as visiting a hospital or university, or setting up an informative event, and then share honest and transparent review with the stakeholders. That way, first of all, they will have a better understanding of the sign of progresses of your initiative. They will also have a clear idea of where the money is actually going. But it's also going to be way easier for you to communicate pain points or even failures if they are actively informed and even better involved. And the last idea, which I believe is really important, is keeping a beneficiary-centric approach at any time. I'm going to show you an example of what could have been avoided following this idea. A few years ago, an international organization decided to distribute humanitarian daily rations in Afghanistan. So they were little meals of 2,000 calories packed into these yellow packages. I believe they went for yellow because it's a color you can see from far, right? But the issue is, there was already another small yellow package often lying on the ground in Afghanistan. It was a blue 97B combined effect bomb, capable of killing anyone on a 50-meter radius. So now imagine an Afghan kid who can barely read, even less understand English, stumbling across one of these packages that can have dramatic consequences. So this extreme case could have been avoided working closely in collaboration with the population on the ground. The locals would have surely warned of the existence of such a package. And even if the bomb actually appeared afterward, at least quickly react, thanks to iteration, in order to change the color of this. So now coming back to these guys we met at the Haitian borders selling medications. They had no use of it, obviously, right? But there's a certainty that other people in Haiti suffering would have made a great benefits from these drugs. So what if the international organization would have provided to these guys instead a microloan, a training program, housing, or even a job? What if these medical supplies would have reached the right community in need? I believe that agility is the ability for an organization to quickly react, renew itself, and succeed in an ever-changing, turbulent environment. I believe that making it the core of an international development strategy would allow a better, sustainable, and tailor-made impact. Thank you.